fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines on WNJC.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo. And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Baradelli here, and we're going to get right into the show because it's primary night in America. Coming to us live from New Hampshire right now, as the results are rolling in, our own correspondent and politichick, Mona Salama. Mona, you there with us?
Hello?
Mona, you can hear me, right?
No, you're breaking up.
Okay, well, listen,
No,
can you tell us where you are? Can you tell us where you are right now in New Hampshire?
I'm right here at Marco Rubio's rally, his celebration night, because other places, such as Donald Trump's and Kasich, was over capacity.
Okay, and what is the mood there right now at Rubio's headquarters?
They're not too happy. They're really, they're not too happy with Kasich surging. They're not too happy that Cruz is in a tight race with Cruz and Bush coming in for third. And as when the two Democrat candidates, or socialist candidates, you might add, were talking, they were booing the whole time. So right now they're both really, really angry and pissed off that more momentum did not come in third like they expected.
And how do they feel towards Chris Christie? They got to think the debate performance and the slam that he gave him during that performance really had to hurt them with the late deciding voters, right?
Correct. And not only did it only hurt Rubio, it also hurt Christie. Christie was, right now, with 30% reporting, he only has, 36% reporting, he's at 7%. And Rubio right now is at 11% with Cruz at 12% and Bush at 11 as well. So it also hurt Christie bigger than it hurt Rubio. But when I went around the streets while people were polling, a lot of them were going to vote for Rubio tonight. But because of what happened over the weekend with him being a robot, and they see Kasich, quiet as a charm and whatever, they think Kasich is the one, because a lot of them told me today during the debate, Kasich proved his case to why he should run for president, because he has experience in Congress, he has experience as a governor, and he's not attacking anybody. He's running a very clean campaign compared to others.
Okay, now you got to also. What we're seeing on TV right now, and what we're seeing on across all the networks, is that it looks like Ted Cruz may be the person who performed the best, that had the lowest expectations. What is the mood? Do you know anything about the mood with the Cruz campaign at this point, or how they feel things are going?
Well, Cruz was underestimated in New Hampshire. They think New Hampshire is a libertarian state, live free or die. There's not a lot of evangelicals and not a lot of conservatives. But talking to a Cruz supporter, a lot of people told me that there's a lot of conservatives here in New Hampshire. So don't underestimate them.
Okay, and of course the big story of the night, Donald Trump is trouncing the field.
I have the Manchester reporting. That's the biggest result of all New Hampshire that determines who's going to win and who lost. And out of the 12 wards in Manchester, it was definitely Donald Trump. He surpassed everybody.
All right, that sounds good. He's going to be the big story of the night. Trump was trying to measure expectations, but it looks like he might double up second place Kasich, right?
Well, you talking about New Hampshire, or are you talking about in general?
I'm talking strictly about New Hampshire and how he did there. We're not talking about anything else right now.
Okay, Donald Trump right now with 36% reporting is at 36%. Yeah, he definitely doubled up with Kasich. he already won. He's already has 10 delegates in his pocket right now going into South Carolina. So in total, he has 16 delegates, so he's good to go.
Okay, now, how does it feel over by Jeb's headquarters? Excuse me, Jeb exclamation point. How is Jeb feeling right now? Kind of a stronger performance for him.
I have no clue. Fox News cut him off. He was about to speak, and he said this campaign is not over, and then boom, they put Trump speaking. I'm only at Rubio's rally, but they have the TV on Fox News to hear other candidates speaking.
Okay, well, listen, Mona, anything you want to add in addition to what you're seeing right now? Obviously, Marco Rubio thought he was going to have a big night. He had the momentum coming out of Iowa. He loses it now. Are they at all worried about South Carolina?
South Carolina, yeah, they have to. Now I have to see how the momentum is when he comes after he speaks, and let's see who comes in third. If he does not come in third or even fourth, he definitely has to worry about South Carolina because Christie really nailed his coffin, and he was supposed to be the guy that was gonna be the establishment candidate, knock out Jeb Bush, knock out John Kasich, bring the field down smaller, coming to the SEC primary March 1st, the first Super Tuesday, But now, because what Christie has done, Christie not only nailed the coffin for himself because I don't think he's going to go forward after South Carolina, but he nailed the coffin for Rubio, and he just gave the momentum for Kasich and Bush. So now it could be a broken convention. So he did a lot of damage, Christie, this past week.
Okay, and just to round out the field, the also-rans out there, you got to think this is the end of the line for Carly Fiorina, this is the end of the line for Ben Carson, and as you said, the end of the line for Chris Christie.
Well, I wouldn't count Carson out just yet. He has the money. He has the momentum. Once he starts, remember, we have SEC. He didn't focus a lot on New Hampshire. He focused a lot on, he's going to be focusing a lot on coming to the SEC. A lot of South, a lot of Black. If he can pull his, do what Cruz does and do what Rubio does, do like 5 town halls a day, he can pull an upset. I wouldn't underestimate Carson right now, but I will say, Carly, it's time for you to pack your bag, keep it moving. Christie, do the same. And then I say for Jeb Bush and John Kasich, see what happens after Nevada. Because Nevada is going to say who's going to get that plane ticket to one of those first in Super Tuesday. I'm sorry. Why I keep saying first in the nation.
Hey, listen, it's been a long day. Don't worry about it. You've been in New Hampshire all day covering everything. Good point about Carson in that New Hampshire is I'm not going to get racist up in this piece, but it's a pretty white state. And not a lot of diversity in the voting there. So Ben Carson may find friendlier territory down in South Carolina.
Correct. In South Carolina, and then I hope he skips Nevada and lets everybody else fight. I think focus on Carson. I think he should have skipped New Hampshire because he knew he didn't have the momentum, and just focus on South Carolina because now everybody is going to take their first-class ticket down to South Carolina right after tonight, and he should have done the same thing. He should have just skipped New Hampshire, just went to South Carolina and try to build momentum to come in third because you have Donald Trump, who is very strong with the Tea Party supporters, but it's also tied with Cruz. And Cruz has Rick Perry with the military. We have 6 military bases in South Carolina. So it's going to be neck and neck with them. So I would have came from behind because those 3 are the Tea Party coalition. And plus with the heavy concentration of Black neighborhoods, and if he talks about, racial discrimination when it comes to the drug war, the war on drugs, and being incarcerated for having a pound of weed in your pocket, if he could focus on that, he can pull an upset and then come into SEC. And if he does not pull for SEC, then he could call it back. But for Carly, she really put her coffin. She nailed her own coffin. Instead of doing what Rand Paul did when he's like, I don't want to be in the undercard, I'm going to go and build my case somewhere, and he did that with the media. Carly decides to go have a dinner date with her husband. I haven't even seen my boyfriend in 2 months. You have time to go see your husband? I would have done the same thing she did with Rand Paul. She complained about ABC not put on her. I'm sorry, but the only time you ever have media attention is when you are not making it in the debate. Where have you been the past 3 weeks before the debate and after the debate? And now you're going to go have dinner with your husband? And then she's saying for Valentine's Day, I got her schedule. She's going to go have dinner with her husband in Nevada. How about you just go pack your bags and go have fun with your husband?
Well, okay, so that's some harsh criticism for Carly Fiorina. I'm with it. So listen,
we're off the stage right now.
Okay, so listen, I'm going to go let you cover it. Thanks for popping in. We'll check back in with you later.
Definitely. We'll see you later, guys. Have fun.
All right, thank you again, Mona Salama. And hello, everybody. Welcome to Behind Enemy Lines. That was a rip-roaring start right there. Gene Baradelli here with you on primary night in New Hampshire. We're off on the road to New Hampshire. It's obviously the fireworks have ended pretty much for the evening. We all know who the winner is, and that is the Donald. Donald Trump is still speaking right now as we tape the show. Listen, besides the primary coverage, we have a great show breaking it down. You heard Mona Salama talking about primary day and where she was. Marco Rubio obviously having a very, very bad day. In our chat room, we got a chat room going on right now at www.behindenemylinesradio.us. Click on the Listen Live button. You can join the chat right now. We got a lot of smart people in the chat talking it up, talking about how Kasich is overperforming, Rubio is underperforming, and Christie is actually overperforming according to the Real Politics target numbers. Ted Cruz on target for where he needs to be. That's pretty interesting. And of course, probably the biggest winner, Donald Trump. You got to give it to him. He's doubling up the field. He's doing what people expected him to do, even though he was a little cautious. He was a little, hesitant, and he hedged a little. Donald Trump is lapping the field in New Hampshire pretty much as expected right now. You know what? As I'm watching the returns come in, as I'm thinking about going forward, let's talk about this. Donald Trump, he's got the operation to go forward. Kasich, finishing second in New Hampshire, is definitely a shot in the arm. And let's give credit where credit is due to Amanda Kohut last week. She called Trump would win and that Kasich would come in second. It's there on record. And hats off to Amanda Kohut for that. Kasich, though, doesn't really have, at least from what I'm hearing, the 50-state operation that you need to have to go forward to make a win like this meaningful. It's going to be an easier road, but a tougher road. Expectations grow. Money has to come in. And we'll see what happens if that money comes in. Ted Cruz finishing third is exactly where he needed to be in New Hampshire. And as you'll hear from our conversation with Newsbusters' Dan Gaynor, talking and analyzing what New Hampshire means to the election cycle, and I'll let him say it, whether this is a dot on the trend line or if this is the trend line itself. As we're looking right now, Donald Trump is doubling up second place. If that doesn't send a shiver through your spine, if you are wearing establishment colors, or if you're in the establishment lane right now, I don't know what will. Because that is a shot in the arm that is a statement-making win. And as we go down the field, Marco Rubio, probably with a statement-making loss right now. He's still in double digits. Let's not overstate where Marco Rubio is right now. He's nip and tuck with Jeb Bush, fighting over fourth place, 1 point behind third place with Ted Cruz. You know how people were overinflating how Marco did finishing in third? They're going to be underinflating how he finished possibly fifth here. Yes, the debate and the attacks from Chris Christie during the debate over the weekend definitely hurt Marco the Robot. I mean, there were people in robot costumes outside his headquarters. You gotta love the trolls, guys. You gotta love how they troll on campaigns. Marco Rubio did not come off well during the debate. He had some good lines. Let's not say that. Let's not denigrate him so much. It's not like he's so underperforming here. He's underperforming slightly. I mean, 4 points, probably a big margin. If they were expecting him to be up in Kasich territory. He's not there. But you know what? Let's not oversell it just yet. Cruz is doing what he should be doing, and I think he's going to be coming out of New Hampshire, not high, not low, right where he should be heading into South Kakalaki. The rest of the field, I mean, Chris Christie, he didn't see a bump from his attack, which is kind of what he was probably hoping for. There was no crossover, but there was definitely a disbursement. Dispersal? I don't even know the right word. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Whatever. There was definitely a big hit to Marco Rubio. You got to point to the debate for it. And, the rest. Carly Fiorina, Chris Christie, it might be time to hit the road, old chaps. Ben Carson, Mona Salama seems to think you should be around for South Carolina. I'm not so sure. I think you may have hit your high water mark, and that's pretty much it. But we shall see, because, listen, this isn't the end of the journey, folks. We're on the road to 2016. We're on the road to picking a nominee. We're on the road to a new president of the United States by the end of the year. Very quickly, looking at the other side of the ledger, 59% right now, as we are taping this show, for Bernie Sanders, and Hillary has dropped below 40. That is a statement. You got to think, folks, that honesty has got to be a big factor. Fox News was talking about an exit poll where those who felt that honesty was the most important characteristic voted over 90% for Bernie Sanders. Over 90%. Wow. If that isn't a declaration, I don't know what is right now. Some of the people in our chat room wondering where Kasich came from in this race, and let's give him credit. Kasich put in the work in New Hampshire. There were a lot of voters out there that really responded to his message and the time and energy he put in there. This, to me, is a crossroads moment for the Kasich campaign. Do you go all in? Do you go after the big money? Or do you hope to hang around, keep your name in the news, try to become the vice presidential pick, and just linger around and make sure that nobody forgets about you? Crossroads moment for the Kasich campaign. Jeb Bush, he's got to be feeling a little better about himself. I don't know if this is going to bring him in the money. He broke double digits. That's an accomplishment in these races. Does that mean that he's going to be seeing some money and seeing some love as we head towards Super Tuesday? I don't know. People are asking in the chat room that we have going at www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us on our Listen Live page here during the live taping, if Hillary is asleep or if she is aware of the results. You know what? I know that Hillary's aware of the results. The reason why I know that is because the number's below 40. There is panic right now at Pierpont Street in Brooklyn, New York, in the People's Republic of New York City, at the main headquarters for Hillary Clinton. Politico is writing that there is no rudder on the campaign. There is no leader on message. There is a grassroots coordinator, a very good one. According to them anyway. I'm not going to say how good he is. But at the same time, if there's no message, what is there to organize? If there's no message, what is there to believe in? If there's no message, what is there to get behind? If there's no message, what is there to donate to? Hillary Clinton's in trouble. I think she's in more trouble than she wants to let on. And I think the Democrats are going to start looking for another candidate, because when you're stuck between the old socialist and the old Democrat, when you're stuck between the old white man and the old white woman, and you have a progressive base that looks to be to the left of Lenin, what do you think is going to happen? Someone in the chat room just said, are we going to be riding with Biden? Maybe Mike Bloomberg is the answer in an independent campaign. Who knows at this point? But it feels like there's no rudder on the ship. Time for a quick break here, folks. When we come back, we're going to have Dan Gaynor from Newsbusters on the line with us, talking and analyzing the New Hampshire race, talking about media coverage, how the media manipulates the vote, how media tries to influence the vote on both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat. And then after that, we'll come back with a brand new segment, a debut, here on Behind Enemy Lines. I'm not going to tell you who it is just yet. Let's hear from our sponsors. Let's hear from Dan Gaynor. And I'll be right back. Gene Baradelli here, Behind Enemy Lines. I'll be back right after this brief word.
I'm Vito.
And I'm Vito, and we're from WNJC's The Vito and Vito Show.
Every Friday at 1 p.m., you can hear Vito and Vito bring you the perspectives of two college-age millennial conservatives who are committed to defending the principles of free markets, liberty, freedom, and individualism from Brooklyn, New York.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Vito and Vito Show. And check out our blog posts and articles at VitoandVito.com.
Vito and Vito Show every Friday, 1 p.m. on WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station. In Brooklyn,
It's nothing but the truth.
There's a movement in healthcare today. It's a movement of people that's ready to stand up and take charge of their healthcare. It's people like you and me who are tired of paying too much for healthcare and getting too little. People who are standing up for their values and letting their conscience make decisions based on timeless principles. It's a movement that's sweeping the nation, and you need to be a part of it. Liberty HealthShare is leading the movement of people who are looking for an alternative to traditional health insurance. Liberty HealthShare is a healthcare sharing organization of people who are sharing the cost of healthcare in an easy and efficient way. Choose your own doctor, your own hospital, and live out your values in healthcare. Join the movement. Together, we're changing healthcare for good. Go to www.joinlhs.com or call 800-722-8041.
Who might you save?
Your mother, your father, your husband, uncle, aunt, son.
Learn FAST, F-A-S-T, the sudden signs of a stroke, and you could save.
Your friend, teacher, boss.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. F-A-S-T. That's F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in the recovery of
Your neighbor, the waiter, grandmother, grandfather.
So learn FAST, the sudden signs of a stroke, then pass it on, because you never know who might save you.
Your wife, your colleague.
Spot a
teammate.
stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org, brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Behind Enemy Lines. Back on the air. Gene Baradelli back behind enemy lines and on the phone with me right now. We took a week off this month, but I'm bringing him back just in time to talk about the elections and New Hampshire and all that fun stuff. From Newsbusters and Media Research Center, Dan Gaynor. Dan, how you doing, pal?
I'm doing well tonight. It's been a busy weekend. If you were a political sports fan, you had everything to do. One debate one night and Super Bowl the next.
The intersection of politics and sports, they really do mirror each other. I mean, we're talking a lot about that during this and other parts of the show as well. But, you know, I got to ask you, in looking at the debates and looking at the ramp up to New Hampshire, how did Marco Rubio go from being golden boy to punchline in the space of 7 days?
Well, because the media want that. See, if there's no controversy, if there's no big to-do about things, then people don't read them. So they create our heroes and they tear them the heck apart. So it's, you know, I said this off air. So if you watched the Saturday night debate and you saw Chris Christie throw a curve at Marco Rubio, got Marco Rubio to stutter, because everybody in politics and everybody who does radio uses talking points from time to time. You get patter that you use, like, a subject comes up and you use certain phrases because it's what you do. We're human beings. We only got so much room in that darn brain of ours. So suddenly the media, I think one outlet may have been Politico, so it's not like it's a legitimate outlet, but I think they called it a debacle. The big issue Saturday night wasn't that, but I'll get to that in a second. Then Sunday, we see the exact same thing. One of the guys who had one of the best seasons in the history of football, Cam Newton, goes into the Super Bowl, but it's his first time in the real big spotlight, and the irresistible force meets the immovable object, and history proves the immovable object usually wins. And so Cam Newton had a presser afterwards, and he probably had one of the worst days of his entire life, humiliated in front of 1 billion people or so, let his team down. That's the way he views the world. And, people are carpet at him, and he walks off. Suddenly the media, oh my gosh, bad leadership. He's a horrible role model. The world's over. If you want to talk about something, talk about the game. So Saturday night, let's talk about the game. The game was Chris Christie, who so obviously abused Marco Rubio for a couple seconds. He's the one who came up with an excuse and saying that rape, and incest. Oh well, abortion there is okay. It's in defense of the woman. You could argue that. Whereas Marco Rubio came up with the best defense of pro-life you're likely to hear in this election or any election, scoring huge points with conservative voters. That's the real story. The media too dense to understand it. And the real story is the Cam Newton game. Don't complain about the press conference. Complain the man didn't die for the fumble. Okay, I'm a Ravens fan, which may or may not float well with the listening audience, but we had a quarterback we drafted who honestly wasn't good enough to carry Cam Newton's luggage. That's Kyle Bowler. First-round pick like Cam, but nowhere near as good. But I'll say one thing about Kyle Bowler. If he dropped the ball, if anybody dropped that ball, he'd be the first guy on the ground to get it. And that's the game of football. So focus on the darn game. Focus on what really matters, not focus on some pumped up, ginned up garbage that only people who live inside the Beltway give a damn about.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, okay, I'm going to let the Ravens fan thing go. I'm going to let it go without a comment. But, okay, go Giants, by the way. Here's the other thing that I noticed, and this also has to do with Marco Rubio, and it's going to be played out again today in New Hampshire. There was the winner of the primary, and then the media's winner of the primary. Of course, I'm talking about Ted Cruz, who actually won, but Marco Rubio, because he exceeded expectations, was the guy who really won. Same thing's going to happen tonight with Donald Trump being the winner, but John Kasich or Jeb Bush being the actual winner. Is this the media's way to downgrade and downplay whoever is the most popular candidate according to the voters?
Well, the media live in permanent fear that somebody's going to pick somebody and they're part of their role in all this ends. So the fact that there were 16 candidates at one point, that full employment for journalists. Oh my God, anybody can say anything about somebody and just keep on talking and tons of stories. No one cares. There are realistically at this point, according to most conservative pundits, 3 viable presidential candidates on the GOP side. Everybody else is running for VP. And so if it's not Trump, it's not Rubio, it's not Cruz, why are we talking about it? Jeb Bush, couldn't beat me in a national election. And that's just the reality of things. The media. I got a discussion with somebody from NPR one day on Facebook, and he didn't understand why people don't like Jeb Bush. He's so conservative. I said, "Do you know anything about Common Core?" He didn't even believe Common Core was an issue. Common Core is a huge issue with conservative voters, huge issue with conservative media. Media don't understand that. So what this enables the media to do is do what they've always done. They want to pick the winner. Oh, it doesn't matter that Ted Cruz was the first Hispanic to ever win an election, for a primary election in the history of the United States. Who cares? If he were a Democrat, it would be enormous. It would be front page banner headlines. Hispanic wins presidential caucus. Oh my gosh. 60% of the GOP voters in Iowa voted for a minority candidate. 100% of Democratic voters voted for somebody who's old and white. Why don't the media talk about that?
That is fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. I love that line. I'm going to use it. I'm going to steal it.
You're welcome to. It's ludicrous that they won't tell you that, but they don't tell you that because that's a conservative meme, and they don't want to say it. They don't ever want to give any acknowledgement. Then they end up caught up in this ridiculous garbage where you're actually got geezer liberals telling young female liberals that if they don't vote for Hillary Clinton, they're going to hell. Madeline Albright, you're going to go to hell. That's how desperate the left is to reinforce Hillary's candidacy. The media, if some right-winger said something as absolutely certifiably insane as that, it would lead broadcasts. There's not a double standard. There's never a double standard in the media. There's one standard. Whatever reporters agree with is news. Whatever they disagree with is not news. If somebody does something bad on the right, it's automatically news. It doesn't matter if it's a zoning commissioner in Dubuque. That's national news. All major Republicans, all major conservatives will be made to answer for whatever stupid thing that person says. But if somebody, let's say Terry Bean, a friend of Obama, a major bundler for Obama, head of a national gay group in the country, is arrested and charged with sex crimes. Oh, that's not news. We're not going to talk about that because the media set the agenda.
It's absolutely amazing. I agree with what you're saying about the media setting the agenda. I just wonder when they all decide to shift the agenda. Because, I mean, we're going to see tonight, obviously we're going to see Trump win tonight. We're going to see Sanders win tonight. They're going to marginalize those two winners, and they're going to basically discount what New Hampshire has to say. But if Hillary does better than expected, is it going to be that there's going to be a huge victory for Hillary, just like it was a huge victory for Rubio?
Well, what they're going to do, and they've been doing it, they've done it 20 times by my tally already on the networks, and that is they've called Sanders the senator next door, or some version of that. The senator next door. Oh, my gosh. Because, New England's tiny, and so he's the senator next door. Everybody knows it. And even Sanders was right on this point. He said, I'm virtually certain that most people in New Hampshire know Hillary Clinton better than they know me. Hillary Clinton, let's not forget, was the senator 2 doors down. She represented New York instead of Vermont. She was Secretary of State of the United States. She was First Lady for 8 years. Yeah, they got a little familiarity, but the media want to downplay that because the left is in a full-on freak out where they suddenly realize that their choices are someone who is under FBI investigation or someone who is an avowed socialist. And they're having visions of 1972 dance in their heads. They think this could be McGovern, Nixon all over again, where the party faithful elect someone that is so far out of the bounds of what America wants, but it's what the kids want. The young college kids who got massive debt, so they want somebody else to pay for it because they're irresponsible and went and got their gardening degree or their women's studies degree at Columbia or something like that. So you've got a lot of motivated people, and that's how caucuses are chosen. If you think back to 2008, that's how Hillary lost last time. Hillary lost because she won the places where it was a vote. And every time they had a caucus, she lost because a lot of people didn't care that much for Hillary, but they wanted to vote for the new guy. They wanted to vote for Barack Obama. Well, it's the same story all over. She's already talking about having a staff shakeup. Media are freaking out because they could get their worst case scenario. They've built up Donald Trump. This is what the media are most scared of. They built up Donald Trump as a way of targeting and attacking the GOP, and now they might get it. They've literally created their own Frankenstein politician.
And that's a great way to put it and a great way to end the segment. Dan, obviously we're going to be getting together at CPAC at some point to throw back a few and maybe talk some politics. Do you see more than those three candidates, the upper tier that you mentioned, Cruz, Rubio, and Trump, do you see anyone else surviving to the first week of March after Super Tuesday?
Well, surviving, no matter who it is, remember people are running for the VP spot. So the reason why they stick around is to keep their face out there. So now it is possible the American public is different than me. But just as the same, New Hampshire is different than the American public. It's very obvious if you watched the debates the other night that it was a decidedly liberal GOP audience. And I don't think that reflects what you're going to find in South Carolina or in Super Tuesday or most of the upcoming primaries. So who wins tonight, it's just one data point. It's not a trend line.
All right. Dan Gaynor, thanks so much. Folks, go to Newsbusters. Like I said, it's one of the sites I travel to every day. It's on my daily blog roll. I check it out religiously. You should too. Dan, we're going to talk again next month, hopefully face-to-face at CPAC. Looking forward to where we stand on election 2016 when we meet up again, pal.
Thank you very much.
All right, and that was Dan Gaynor from Newsbusters and Media Research Center talking a little election 2016. And you know what, folks? As we're seeing news from the trail coming in right now, and Chris Christie may be taking a break from the campaign, possibly to suspend it, we're seeing a lot of different things on social media. We're seeing the point of view from a lot of different people. I see comments on Facebook and on the Twitters that this is a grassroots win for Donald Trump. A billionaire is a grassroots win. I gotta think about that one. And while I'm thinking about that one, and I'm talking about social media, thanks for listening to Behind Enemy Lines Radio. I'm Gene Baradelli. Russ is working tonight through this primary special show. And while I got you listening, check us out at www.behindenemylinesradio.us. Check us out on the Facebooks and the Twitters at BEL_radio. And if you miss any part of this show, when we broadcast live on Spreaker, you can check us out on rebroadcast at any one of our outlets, including WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station, Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, Red State Talk Radio, High Plains Talk Radio and Sackheads Media, and K98Talk.com. And if you miss any of those rebroadcasts and you want to listen on demand, download it to your phone, or listen on Spreaker, or listen on Podbay, or listen on iTunes. There's so many out there. Player FM, TuneIn Radio, you can listen on demand, Stitcher, and of course, iHeartRadio. Very proud to be on iHeartRadio. Check us out on any one of those outlets. And finally, while you're checking out different sites and stuff on the net, check out the Brooklyn Young Republicans, where this show started from, at www.brooklynYRS.com. Normally we take our Al Sharpton break right around this time, folks, but I'm really, really excited to talk about what you're about to hear. Behind Enemy Lines is not only becoming a national phenomenon where we have fans from San Francisco to the Philadelphia area to People's Republic of New York City, down in Pensacola, Florida, and all points in between. Burleson, Texas. I mean, you got to see the demographics we're getting across the nation. But now we're going international. I'd like everybody to welcome a new contributor to the show from Town Hall Magazine. He is their UK correspondent. His name is Andre Walker. You're going to start seeing him on our blog, and you're going to start hearing from him on a regular basis, just like this. Time to head across the pond. Meet our newest contributor, Andre Walker.
Hello and welcome. My name's Andre Walker, and your weekly monologue starts right now. Did I spot Democrat fever hitting that pillar of American greatness, the Super Bowl, on Sunday? Or rather, hitting its halftime performance? Watching Chris Martin and Beyonce competing for space on stage reminded me of the final days of the New Hampshire primary. The Great White European Socialist, played in the Super Bowl by Chris Martin of Coldplay, strutted around the stage to the delight of spotty-faced identikit teen groupies far too young to know better. Out of tune with the watching American public, Martin whined about wanting to rule the world and how it would be paradise. As he danced around, like the drunken uncle you only have to put up with at weddings, he was joined by an army of people dressed in traditional Chinese clothing, including rainbow umbrellas. I can't think of a better person to play Bernie Sanders in any forthcoming dramatisation of this epic primary battle. No wonder the Chinese were jumping for joy. Who'd have thought that communist economics would be brought back to life by a candidate for US president? What a very, very strange world we really live in. We can only assume that if Sanders rules the world, the paradise he refers to involves unlimited turnip rations for anyone willing to dob in a relative to the secret police. But what of Hillary? Well, she was ably played by Beyonce Knowles, who insulted American police with her Black Panther routine, but perhaps in a nod to Clinton's explanation of how she dealt with confidential emails, Beyoncé opened and closed her mouth, but nothing at all came out. But Hillary didn't get it all her own way though. I definitely spotted that the band weren't really blowing those trumpets. I'm pretty certain that if Bill Clinton had anything to do with it, every trumpet would have been blown. He's never missed an opportunity in the past. If that wasn't enough, we even had a recap of past Super Bowl halftime glory, including footage of left-wing favourite Bono. He's spent much of the past few decades demanding that ordinary Americans pay higher tax, whilst domiciling U2 in the Isle of Man tax haven. From what I can see, your average American factory worker pays more in overseas aid than he does. But perhaps my imagination is getting a little out of control. How can the Super Bowl, on its 50th anniversary, really be a subtle advocation of socialism? This is America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Super Bowl socialism seems even less likely than an Indonesian pacifist who loves European socialised healthcare grabbing the White House. Don't worry about it, it's never going to happen. That's a wrap, folks. Join me on Twitter to continue the conversation at Andre JP Walker.
Check out Andre's column at townhall.com and read Andre's work here, Behind Enemy Lines. Now back to the show.
That is going to be... It is already my favorite segment on the show. Sorry, Reverend Al. You're done. Andre Walker, welcome to Behind Enemy Lines. We're going to love having you. Is there anything better than a limey Brit talking about American football and comparing it to politics? I can't think of anything. Folks, maybe we're not done with Reverend Al. I think we should probably just give him the equal time anyway. I think people are going to miss him. I see comments going to be coming up in the chat room any minute now. I kind of feel it happening. All right, we're going to give Al Sharpton the equal time here. And when we come back, a few more final thoughts, a little bit of a wrap-up of New Hampshire, looking forward to South Kakalaki, and we'll see what's on the road beyond that. Gene Baradelli, Behind Enemy Lines. I'll be back right after Reverend Al. The show will be right back. But first, a word from Al Sharpton.
Good evening, Rev. Thanks
Good evening,
to
Rev.
you, Ed. Is this Groundhog Day 2? We are watching that was Attorney General Eric Holder, ABDs, about some Republicans at home are already beating the drums of war. Today, the Pentagon refuted that claim. And he said the American people do not want him to, quote, dwiddling, they do not want him dwiddling his thumbs. You can get a gig as a contortionist. Intravenous fluids and pills coated with gelatin. We don't leave our women or men in uniform behind. It's a monument to the hubris of Dick Cheney, Representative Raul Labrador. Years of abuse. I personally apologized to Mr. Peebles. Just ask to soon-to-be former Congressman. Democrats are outright jitty. CIA's counterterrorism center. Veteran Affairs Secretary Shinseki. Why do I always mess up his name? Shinseki. I love my critics. I have fun with that.
Politics Nation with the Reverend Al Sharpton starts right now. Good evening, Rev.
Good evening, Dr. Dyson.
But wait, there's more.
And we will much about that be committed. So there's no real conflict. Michael Druniak, including Lincoln himself, Daniel Day-Lewis. Behind Monica Lewinsky, the one and only Trey Songz is here. But Allison Lundergan Grimes, Gina De Jesus. When Gina De Jesus, Tea Party challenger Matt Bivens. People don't want to have their Social Security overall. The Republican savior, Mark Rubio's big night. In evolution and Galileo, I mean this whole thing of Galileo, America's changed. unless IT and Skillets, President Putin doing something similar back in, it won't change this fundamental fact about the GOP. Just how absurd these attacks is. Nearly 6 months after the dangerous traffic jam, the Thai military says, my friend for many years, Ilyana Van Zandt. There's nothing there.
And they gave this guy a TV show? Let's get back to our show.
Gene Baradelli, back behind enemy lines, getting ready to wrap this sucker up. As they are wrapping up in New Hampshire, the first two states, the first in the nation primary is done and over with. We have our winners, Donald Trump, and we have our definite losers. I think we see Carly Fiorina on that end. Chris Christie maybe packing it up. And I think we saw, and this is just my perspective, folks. I'm not going by numbers. I'm going by perception, because in a lot of ways, perception outweighs reality when it comes to Okay, I'm going to reset here. Sorry about that, folks. Live radio, it happens sometimes. Gene Baradelli, back behind enemy lines. Here's the deal. I'm not going to go by what the numbers say. I'm not going to go by what the RCP average is going to tell me. Time to look at perception, not reality. But perception in politics is reality. Let's start at the top of the list. Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he did what he had to do, and then some. Donald Trump was managing expectations, folks. All he was doing was trying to say, well, if I win by one vote, it's good enough for me. A win is a win. But he outperformed that. He overperformed that. He did a lot better than that. He doubled up second place. Obviously, he's going to be the cock of the walk now. He's going to be strutting his stuff through South Carolina and beyond. Donald Trump's message tonight is, I'm for real and I'm here to stay. And just think, folks, it would be kind of crazy once he gets a ground game, how amazing he'll do. Next one on the list, John Kasich. John Kasich did what he had to do tonight. He had to hit a home run. He hit a double off the wall and he scored a run at least. He may have even hit that home run for himself, depending upon his own personal expectations. He has made his mark on the candidate field. He has established himself, to turn a phrase, to being a candidate who may be around up to Super Tuesday, definitely, beyond that even as well. Ted Cruz's expectations, again, he's going to say that he exceeded them. Ted Cruz is going to say, we beat the media, we beat the pundits, we beat everybody that said we wouldn't have a good showing here. That's what he's going to say. Jeb Bush can say the same thing. Calm down, conservatives and grassroots people. You know what? Jeb Bush had the night he needed tonight. He broke double digits. He's beating Marco Rubio. I don't know if it's going to actually happen. But as of right now, he is. And as people start going to bed on the East Coast, that's going to be what they go to bed with. Jeb Bush did what he had to do tonight. He remains marginally in the field. He's still in the game. I don't think you can say that you got rid of Jeb anytime soon. Loser of the night that's going to remain in the field is Marco Rubio, folks. Perception is reality. The perception is, or at least was, coming out of Iowa, that Marco Rubio was the big winner. He was the real winner. He was the guy that came out on top, not Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was going to win anyway. Donald Trump was going to be up there anyway. Marco Rubio took the last-minute deciding votes. By the way, that's what John Kasich did tonight, folks. Why aren't you talking the same about him? But back to Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio tonight is the big loser because not only didn't he meet expectations, he's leaving New Hampshire a damaged candidate, and he really has nobody to blame but himself. Poor preparation for his debate, poor damage control afterwards. It's not like Chris Christie got a bump out of taking him out. You might as well have called it, a kamikaze mission. Make no mistake, Chris Christie thought he was going to get somewhere with those attacks. Chris Christie thought he was going to get a bump in the polls by taking a bite out of Marco Rubio, that Marco Rubio's people are also his people. But as we see now, election politics is a fickle mistress, folks. I'm getting tongue-tied. It's getting late here. But you know what? Marco Rubio now walks out a wounded candidate. But this isn't the end for him. He is, again, expected to have a strong showing in South Kakalaki. He's got Trey Gowdy endorsing him. He's got Senator Tim Scott endorsing him. He should be back up there again, if not winning the state. But let's see what happens if the robots become more of an albatross around his neck, or if, I don't know, or if he can kind of shake it off, pick himself up from the dirt, from the dust back he got, and with Christie possibly being out of sight, out of mind, taking his deep breath as he leaves New Hampshire, maybe, just maybe, Marco Rubio can come back. And maybe he can come back with a vengeance. And finally, Ben Carson. Let's get this out of the way right now. If you're looking for an excuse for Ben Carson, you Carson people out there, by the way, I don't know who you are. I don't know what your demographic is. I don't know what your age range is. I don't know what your income strata is. I can't put my finger on who you guys are. But if you're out there listening and you're wondering what happened tonight, if you want to hang it on something, you can hang it on the fact that New Hampshire is not the most diverse state in the Union. Perhaps Ben Carson knew going in that he didn't have a shot of coming out of New Hampshire with any delegates. Perhaps Ben Carson discounts New Hampshire because at the end of the day, it's a pretty liberal state. Who knows at this point what Ben Carson will be doing? But I think it'll be safe to say, as Mona Salama said at the beginning of the show, live from New Hampshire, don't count out Dr. Ben Carson yet because of a poor performance in New Hampshire. The same way you shouldn't have counted out John Kasich for having a poor performance in Iowa. Ben Carson may be waiting to head south to his people. He's from the South. He may have a better beat on it. It's more of a culturally diverse state, more of a culturally diverse background for voters. You may see Ben Carson coming back strong as well. But one thing you can say about the Republican field as it stands right now here on primary day in New Hampshire. You went from having a 3-horse race to the field widening a little bit. One of the 3 horses stumbled. 2 of them kept stride. One of them even started to pull away. But when that 3rd horse stumbled, you have to see that at least 2 of them caught up and now are walking stride for stride with him. The problem is those 3 horses are in what we call the establishment lane. By the way, can I just take credit for the phrase lanes? I was talking about what lane people be running in when I was talking to Ted Cruz at CPAC last year. I'm taking credit for that. I don't care what they say. I actually have it on tape. Be that as it may, you're going to start seeing possibly some more vicious attacks coming between Rubio, Kasich, and Bush, because there can be only one. There can be only one establishment person there that will then have to go up against Cruz and Trump. Because you got to say right now, based on what you saw here in New Hampshire, Trump and Cruz, they're in probably past Super Tuesday. They're going to be getting some states out of Super Tuesday. They'll be right there in the thick of it. The question remains, who else will be with them? Before primary night in New Hampshire, Marco Rubio was kind of a lock to be there. Maybe not so much anymore. And finally, just to give some lip service to the Dem side, Hillary Clinton, can I just say, honestly, and I think the crowd will back me up with this, that we are loving what happened to you. I mean, we are absolutely loving. You're not breaking 40 in a very liberal state. There's a problem right now for Hillary Clinton. The problem is there's no message. The problem is there's no leadership. The problem is she underestimated Bernie Sanders, at least in the first 2 states. First impressions are a big deal in politics. Bernie Sanders has left a good first impression on the progressive wing of the Democratic Party going forward. The question is, what now, Bernie? What now? Are you going to be heading to South Kakalaki with momentum? Yes. Are you going to be heading there with a lot of young people behind you? Yes. Are you going to have an opponent that is considered to be almost unanimously untrustworthy by her own party voters that voted in New Hampshire? Yes. But is that enough? Is that enough to stop the Clinton monolith from running you over as time goes on? Listen, Bernie Sanders may have the ear of a lot of young people who don't know any better. Look it up, folks. Socialism doesn't work when you run out of other people's money, as Rand Paul has said. But what are you going to do now, Bernie, when the rubber meets the road in South Kakalaki, in Super Tuesday states, where it's not going to be easy to run multiple primaries in multiple states without a 50-state operation? It's going to be tough. Can it not be done? I don't know. But I'd love to be right now a fly on the wall in Debbie, whatever her name is, Schultz's office. Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I know her name, folks. But it's more fun when I say it the other way. When Debbie does the Democratic Party next time and she speaks to them, what can she really say? You have a socialist that is leading your party right now. Whether that lasts or not is really of no consequence to me, because at this moment in time, the Democrat Party is being shown for who and what they are. Socialists. They're responding to a socialist message. They are once again rejecting Hillary Clinton, much of like what we saw in 2008. And it's a rejection across the board, folks. It's not just 1 or 2 places here or there. It's a rejection across the board. It goes across gender lines, goes across age lines, goes across income lines. The people showing up to vote right now, the people that are responding to Bernie Sanders' message of income inequality and that narrative, a la Warren Wilhelm, Bill de Blasio here in the People's Republic of New York City. And it's a lot of young people out there with a lot of young energy. And who knows what the Democrats are doing for a plan B right now. You got to be thinking about a plan B. Hillary Clinton is not pulling her weight, so to speak. I think it's time for maybe to break the Biden out of the glass, folks. I think it might be time for Uncle Joe to step out into the spotlight. If that happens, you know that Hillary is in major trouble. Or there could be an indictment. Who the heck knows at this point when it comes to Hillary Clinton? But here's what I do know. It's going to get fun right now, folks. Not only in the road to the presidency, but here behind enemy lines. You heard Andre Walker, brand new contributor to the show. You heard Mona Salama in New Hampshire. She's traveling the country. You're going to be hearing a lot more surprises. Guests for CPAC coming up in March. We're going to be doing a live show from CPAC on WNJC, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station, 1360 AM. We're going to have a lot of big announcements coming, and the biggest one is yet to come. I know I've been hinting about this a lot. I know I've been kind of messing with this a lot, telling you that something big is on the horizon for the show. It's coming, folks. I can't give it away now. I'd love to give it away now. But it's coming. You'll hear about it real soon. And it's going to be an exciting year as we look to elect a new president this year. Hopefully a Republican one. Folks, that about wraps up for me. I'm going a little overtime to make up for some tech issues here on our live show. I want to thank everybody for listening to the show, hanging out with us in the chat room. But until next time, when we once again go behind enemy lines here, live from the People's Republic of New York City. Until then, folks, we are out of here. Good night.
Our position has been compromised. It's time to roll out. Report for debriefing at www.behindenemylinesradio.us and look for regular communications via Facebook and Twitter at BEL_radio. You are the resistance. Behind Enemy Lines. Part of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. A rock radio production. Copyright 2015. Back in 7 days. Out.